You're listening to the PR Wind Down podcast, the show for public relations professionals who are ready to see real change in the PR industry. We are your hosts, April Margulies and Laura Schooler. Let's get ready to wind down.
Happy Halloween from the PR Wind Down team.
If you loved our Halloween episode last year, you are in for a treat.
The Halloween special is back from the grave. We are serving up some frightfully good tricks of the trade this week.
So grab a brew and get ready for back-to-back PR horror stories and a deep dive into the scariest tales from the news media this week.
All right, so should we start with a horror story since we have multiple horror stories?
Okay, scary story number one. Hey, PR Wind Down goddesses.
Ooh.
One of my best friends is someone I met at a former agency job. We just instantly clicked and were fast friends, as if we'd always known each other. Our close-knit friendship was deepened by the fact we sat across the hall from each other, and all of our work was intrinsically interdependent. And we went through the same trials and tribulations and fires. The two of us were thick as thieves. We'd often go to lunch together or go get coffee together, and we were usually inwardly or outwardly giggling about some inside joke or scenario in lockstep. Although we were both straight girls, we started to be seen as a couple by our boss. And we sometimes even joked about being work wives. This all became super awkward one day when we were in a meeting with a prospect and our boss introduced us as a couple. Oh my God. And correcting him would have made things even more awkward. It didn't help that I had a stereotypically butch haircut at the time either. It was the first time, but not the only time he'd do this. On another occasion, he even joked to a client that I was a dominatrix. This particular incident was made even more awkward by the fact that he left the meeting abruptly and very early, as usual, leaving us there to bask alone in the uncomfortable situation he's just created. For the rest of the meeting, I wondered whether he really believed that or just fantasized it was true, which made me even more uncomfortable as the meeting went on. Given that it was all in good fun and seemed like such a minor incident, I didn't report anything to HR. After listening to the podcast, I'm sure at least Laura would agree this was a good move. But what should you do in a situation like this if it makes you truly uncomfortable? All right, well, I gotta say, when I talk about not going to HR, it's not about issues like this. This is actually the kind of thing you should go to HR. When I say don't go to HR, it's about like your own personal job or your salary or how your boss is treating you, but not when it comes to weird sexual harassment type issues, you know? And I don't know where this falls. It's not sexual harassment, but it is inappropriate for the workplace. If it was even a man or a woman, a straight couple, why are you introducing your client as like, this is a couple? And the fact is, I feel like this guy, I'm assuming it was a male boss, right, would not have introduced them as a couple if they had been a heterosexual couple. And so that makes it even more awkward and weird. The reason why he was doing it was because he thought or hoped that they were lesbians. I think that when you're young and maybe even when you're old, it's hard to confront, but like the boss should be confronted. Like, what, dude, what are you talking about? And why are you doing that in front of a client? Like, we're not a couple, we're friends and we work together. And even if we were a couple, that's not your business or the client's business and it's irrelevant.
Right.
So I think that that's what.
So is this the only horror story where you said go to HR?
No, I think I've said go to HR about, harassment type claims When I say they're useless is what I'm talking, like I said, about your job because your boss wants to fire you. That ship has already sailed. Or your salary isn't high enough. Like HR ain't going to help you.
Right.
But with this kind of stuff, they actually have to help you because it's probably
A legal
legal
liability.
Yeah, that's my jam on this one.
Yeah. I mean, if you imagine being in that situation and that's happening,
Right.
you can only imagine that must be the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah.
So it does beg the question of whether or not that's a battle you want to fight. So if it's one of those things you can kind of laugh off, then maybe leave it alone. But if it really does truly, as the question was posed, make you truly uncomfortable, then yeah, I think Laura's right. You just gotta take it to HR, assuming that this is the worst incident. I mean, given that if that's happening, what else is happening? But if it is, then it is.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that was what a way to kick off Halloween. All right, what should we tackle next? Do you want to get into a PR news of the week story?
Sure. What do we got?
Break it up. So we have a story about AT&T CEO being unhappy with his own company's brand. So Laura, do you want to do the honors and explain what the details of the story are?
So AT&T CEO John Stankey says he's not satisfied with his company's own brand. AT&T's had a lot of branding blunders in the past years, and he wants to focus on the core wireless service as he separates DirecTV and Warner Media from AT&T. Stanky, because his name is Stanky.
Okay, so that's the scariest part of the story.
He's looking ahead, and he doesn't feel like the brand is well positioned. I did not know this, but AT&T Wireless has fallen behind Verizon and T-Mobile in terms of the number of subscribers after T-Mobile acquired Sprint. So I get it now. They need to, like when I worked for PwC, they said the brand was old-fashioned. It was navy blue and white. It was very, white guy from Britain sort of thing. And, in the 1930s. So they totally revised the whole look and feel of the brand. And along with that, you have to do other things too. It's not not just about a logo or the color of pens that you hand out at a conference or whatever. You have to infiltrate it with some real brand identities, brand messages, the way you function as a company, et cetera, all of those things. Right now, they're talking about there's been a lot of confusion. I don't think I knew that AT&T owned all those companies, right? There was a blunder that they're talking about debuting HBO Max while HBO Go and HBO still existed. So it was a lot of confusion. It also changed the name of its DirecTV Now streaming service to AT&T TV Now, which is a separate product from AT&T TV. I mean, they own so many things. I think somebody needs to come in and look at the whole universe of all of the things that they own. And it seems to me like they've been naming things like ad hoc almost, like, are you picking off of the a la carte menu when you should be designing a whole
universe?
Right. Everybody knows AT&T, but does anybody know what they stand for anymore?
I only think of them for wireless.
Well, right. I've had AT&T wireless since my first cell phone, and it has not been a great service. But I've never wanted to change because I think, they're all kind of cruddy and it would have caused problems.
I thought what you were going to say is that you think it's funny that he thinks the company has a branding issue when his name is Stanky.
The company's branding is Stanky.
No, but also that you're going to say his personal brand needs work. So it's ironic that he's saying his company brand needs work.
Well, it's funny. I keep thinking of Spanky when I say Stanky.
See.
So not only is it stinky, it's Spanky. It's Spanky from Little Rascals or something. It's just a crazy, hilarious last name. What's he going to do? Change his name? So I just think there's such a great opportunity here for a creative agency or somebody to come in and be like, look,
they need a brand. Yeah.
Right. We need to look at the universe of your products, what you're trying to achieve in the next 5 years, the next 10 years, what to retire, how to bring it all together, how to roll it out, how to deploy it, how to talk about it. Do you need
big job?
Right, it's a huge job, but like what a job it could be for a certain kind of agency or ad agency, branding company. I don't know. It could be. So it is scary that a company that was the clear leader in all of this stuff is falling behind. And you wonder, is it a chicken or egg? Is it falling behind because the branding is so weak? Or is the branding weak because the company is already weak and so nobody's, they haven't been watching the store? What caused what? What's indicative of what? If they want to be like a lot of these companies, I mean, whether or not they would admit it, want to be like the Googles and Facebooks, et cetera, of the world, like they totally have to get their toes, feet, whatever, out of, the 1980s.
What my question is, why would he tell this to a reporter in an interview?
It's not a really great look for...
I mean, from a PR perspective, that's where I'm horrified. Like, that's what scares me. How does this serve him? Unless...
Maybe, does he want his shareholders to understand that he's aware that there's work to be done?
It's the only explanation I can come up with that makes
oblivious?
any sense.
Yeah.
It's the only explanation.
Maybe.
Unless he just accidentally shared this. Otherwise, I don't get it. I don't get what the point of airing your dirty laundry like that is. But I think you probably nailed it. It's the only rational explanation other than an accident. It could be that he did an introductory interview to talk about something else and he said this offhand. And it was like...
Then it became the whole story.
It became the whole story, which would suck.
That just happens.
I mean, it definitely could be what happened. How much does he look like an older, slightly less dashing Don Draper?
Oh my God. That's
you
funny.
See it?
The mouth. Yes.
The mouth.
Yes. That's so
like,
funny.
Huh. It's very funny. I mean, he's still a nice looking man.
Yeah, but you know what?
Nobody can look quite as good as
Don Draper.
No.
What's his real name?
John Hamm.
John Hamm. John Stanky. Maybe it is John Hamm.
With a mask on, playing the CEO.
With the balding thing. Yeah, so John Stanky, just shave it off. Like, just get rid of it.
Now you're just being mean.
No, I'm trying to help him with his personal branding.
Okay.
Okay.
Should we move on to horror story number 2?
Certainly.
Okay. I will do the honors of this one. Okay. Scary story number 2. It was a day, just like any other day, and I secured a bylined article opportunity for a client. It was all normal. The editor at this little trade pub reviewed my initial pitch and abstract. He said my pitch was great, but not a fit, and that he considers some alternatives. Took some heavy brainstorming, but I worked with my manager to craft 3 alternative angles, each complete with thorough abstracts for consideration. After some back and forth, the editor selected one of the articles and gave me a list of writing guidelines and a deadline. 2 days before the deadline, I submitted the client's completed, reviewed, and approved draft. No answer. 3 days. Then, the editor replied to me with this scary email saying the draft was terrible and I should never submit something so awful to a serious publication. I was shocked. The byline was the same quality of others I'd worked on for that client, and we followed the approved abstract to a T. I checked, and all of the length and the technical requirements were fine too. I replied asking for specific feedback and saying I'd be happy to have the draft updated so it would meet the editorial standards. Silence. I followed up a few days later, offering to get on the phone and discuss revisions. We'd worked hard on the draft, 2,000 words, and I wanted to salvage it. This time, I got a message blocked by sender notice. Yikes. What did I do wrong? Okay, so this is horrifying, truly.
Oh, this is scary.
It is scary. It actually is scary. So my initial question would be to this person, or if it were me in this situation, which thank God it was not. Sorry to this person if that was them. I would want to see if I actually attached the right draft. Did I accidentally send them the wrong version?
That's interesting.
And I didn't realize I attached the wrong thing. That would be my first assumption, was that I attached the wrong thing, knowing that it's the same quality as every other byline that I've written or overseen written and submitted.
That's really interesting that you like totally sent the wrong version or something different entirely. Who knows? All right. I like that. I mean,
I imagine this person checked, but so let's pretend they checked and it
Okay.
was the right version.
It's hard to say because I don't know what the topic was, what the publication is. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So,
Well, they said tiny.
oh, right. I was thinking, like, is this the Harvard Business Review or something?
It's like a little trade publication where they're
Right.
usually not very particular.
And the fact that they liked the initial
Idea.
pitch. So it was like the pitch was great, it says. So obviously that was not like written crazy. And then the editor said it was terrible and I should never submit something so awful to a serious publication. God.
I don't know what else you could just,
dumbfounded.
I mean, it could be somebody that's like got a mental disorder of some kind or a mood disorder and it's like just hit them at the wrong time at the wrong day.
And this editor blocked them. I mean,
that's extreme. Honestly, there's not really anything you can do other than try to find another editor at that publication and just say, hey, I'm so sorry. I don't know what we did wrong, but I'd love to know as a learning for next time. We really want to have a partnership with your publication and this
Right.
client, it means a lot to them. Is there anything I can do? I mean, I think that's
yeah,
the,
I think that you have to
only
go
option.
to another person at that publication.
It's the only option.
Maybe I don't, and again, I don't know what the trade is. I don't know what the topic was, but maybe there was something that offended the person who was reading
That's what
it
I'm
for
wondering.
some reason. I'm not accusing anybody. People get offended over the craziest things these days. So that's the only other thing I could think of.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Because I'm just taking this person at their word that it was like, a normal, solid article.
Yeah.
And why you would get treated like you wrote something on like the toilet paper and, threw it at them at their head or something. It's just bizarre.
Unless there's some industry specific detail that you overlooked, like some fundamentally wrong thing that you didn't realize was wrong and the client didn't either, that editor, because of their specific knowledge of construction or logistics or electronics or like HR, if there was some thing in the article that showed a lack of understanding of some industry specific detail that was offensive. That's the only other guess I have. But if you discovered that you sent the wrong article, that would have been good to include in note number 2 before you got blocked.
Right. I think one was like, here's a pitch. They said, it's great, but not really for us. Then they redid it and sent it. So that was number 2 was when they got like screamed at. And then they wrote back again to say, well, can we discuss it? And I guess that was when they realized they had been blocked. So yeah, it sounds like they were blocked after like getting yelled at after number 2.
Okay, so then it wouldn't have worked anyway. But if you discovered you sent the wrong version, then I think you have to go to another editor. That's a bummer.
That's scary. It's good for Halloween though.
All right, should we move on to our second news story, our scary news story?
Yes.
Our second scary news story of the day is about Instagram pausing its plan to develop a platform for kids after criticism.
I mean, who thought that was a good idea to begin with?
This should never have been a news story. In other words,
mean, teenagers and young people are like committing suicide over social media. And I think Instagram is one of the leading causes of. So let's lower the age. Let's make, 10-year-olds feel horrible about themselves. Well, that's a great idea.
Yeah. I was just talking to a prospect today about this, and he was saying, yeah, we're totally going to trust that there's no pedophiles joining the tween version of Instagram since all of Facebook's content moderating rules and hacks are working flawlessly.
So this announcement follows an investigative series by the Wall Street Journal that reported Facebook was aware that the use of Instagram by some teenage girls had led to mental health issues and anxiety, which is what I was basically saying without having to read the Wall Street Journal. Duh. Right. So I think, lawmakers got involved in asking Facebook to abandon this idea. The opposition, came out immediately, and Facebook was exploring a parent-controlled experience because how parents can really control what their kids do. especially at 2 o'clock in the morning in their own bedrooms, with their phones under their pillow. I mean, it's crazy. You've got the fact that Facebook is not really known for protecting, well, anybody, but children on its platforms. I mean, like I said, it's not gone real great for adults. Why do we think this is going to be a good thing to do for children? I feel like there's so many things that with every decade or generation, whatever, like more and more sort of loss of childhood, the loss of innocence, the whatever has come into play. Kids are introduced to too much, they know too much, and they can't process it because they're too young.
I can't even imagine peer pressure in
Well,
a
exactly.
digital context.
I mean, it was hard enough just to be a kid without that. I am so happy social media did not exist when I was a kid.
I know.
No wonder kids are having so many problems. I've been talking to parents just this weekend about like big issues that kids are having these days, and they're so out of the realm of what I even approached. And so much of it, and I know, is competitiveness, not only between kids, but between parents.
Oh,
because
yeah.
Parents were always competing with each other through their kids. Even back in my day, it's just another out of control platform for parents to compete with other parents, in my mind. And it's always one parent and then two parents and then everybody's parents who lets their kids do things that aren't age appropriate. And then everybody's got to let their kids do it because all the kids say, well, but Lisa and Johnny can do it, or Susie and Mindy can do it. Why can't I? And parents always end up giving in, almost always. And if they don't give in, well, I was going to say, if they don't give in, then their kids are like, weirdo social pariahs. I mean, it's a really hard position, right, to be in. I somehow found myself in the middle of it all. And so I just was weird. That was my solution. I just won't even play this game. I'll do my own game and like it or not like it.
What kind of weird? What version? Goth weird?
Sort of a rock and roll, not like punk, more like new wave chick.
Okay.
I guess.
I can see that.
Yeah, that's what it was. But, I played sports too.
Yeah.
So I was wearing like this whole getup, and then I would change and I'd be in pinstripes playing softball, second base. But people were okay with it. Like I didn't get shit for it. This is my funny story of myself. It's like a Pretty in Pink moment or something. So when you're a junior or senior, you don't have study hall anymore. You had free period and you could go to the library or to the cafeteria or to a couple of rooms in the school, or you could go outside. So you walked out and all the kids, and a lot of them were my friends, whatever, they'd sit in like a circle on the ground and they'd be passing like cigarettes or probably pot in a tight circle so that like teachers couldn't see what they were doing. But I didn't smoke. I wasn't doing drugs. I wasn't drinking, whatever. But one day I decided it was a nice day and I'm in one of my get-ups and I'm going to walk outside at my free period. And I open the door and I walk outside and there's like this, I'm probably a senior, and there's a circle of people, and like somebody looks up at me and they're like, hey, Laura. And I'm like, what? They're like, have you ever been out here before? And I'm like, no, and it's stupid. I'm going back inside now. And I turned around and I went back inside and everybody, ha ha ha. Like nobody gave me crap for it.
Interesting.
I never got involved in that stuff. And people would, I realized later, even keep me from it. It was like, I was like the good girl on the
infiltrated.
Inside. Yes. Anyway, so I guess my whole point is that my solution to all of the pressures of what you're supposed to be like and look like, and the parents, whatever, I was just like, I'm not even going to play this game. I'm going to play my own game and try to beat me at that, mother effers. And, nobody could.
I was exactly the same. It's so funny.
People like, did you see what Laura was wearing to the prom or whatever, And I'm sure people kind of talk shit, but I think most people just were like, oh my God, I can't wait to see what she comes up with this time. It was like 1950 in my town in many ways, But my point is, I understand how hard it is, because 16 years old as a girl is a horrible time. It's a horrible. And to have then been able to share photos and videos of each other, and people are going to share photos of you that you don't want people to see, and they're going to make up stories, and it's going to be horrible, and you could get a reputation that you did not even earn
What's the advertising saying that teenage girls are the ultimate victims and the ultimate gatekeepers of popular culture? Is that from Killing Us Softly?
I don't know. I don't know if I've ever heard that, but that's yes.
So interesting.
Yeah.
The whole Instagram kids thing also reminds me of that movie that we talked about earlier this year called Cuties.
Oh, right.
Did you ever see that?
Yes, I did watch it.
You watched it?
Yes.
Yeah, it's interesting. Well, certainly not who we want running our society, that's for sure.
And there's a whole other level of like, gender identity now that didn't exist right then. Back then it was kind of like, is somebody gay? But that wasn't even talked about so much. But just the sexuality and does he like me? Does he not like me? I'm not pretty enough. Should I hook up with him? How much should I allow this kid? So much of that is wrapped up. And now you've got kids who are like, am I male? Am I female? Am I neither? Am I both? Am I, and it's my head explodes. I'm so not somebody who can talk about it. I'm not educated enough, but throw that in the mix. And I mean, no,
terrible. Yeah, I was anorexic because it was in high school and I wasn't even like a heavy girl.
Right.
But everything I saw in magazines, and that was just magazines. And then the girls started calling me Thunder Thighs because I had these big muscular basketball legs.
That trauma lives with you forever. It's
forever.
horrible.
I cannot imagine.
Yeah. Imagine it
how
being
much
whizzing around on Instagram.
Social? Oh my God. I could barely handle, the girls in class who got best legs because I was Thunder Thighs. And then.
But did like boys make lists of who's the hottest girl or like what's the best legs? Why was that?
Yeah, Kayla had best legs. I still remember.
Even in Iowa,
and then I was
like,
right. No, and I was looking and I was like, how do I have thighs like Kayla? Like, how do I?
I'll just stop eating.
So I cannot imagine. I'm very glad that this is not moving forward. I think, in summary.
I mean, can't kids just get on regular Instagram though? How's that? Are you 18? Yeah.
Do they address this in here?
I mean, I don't know. Instagram isn't marketed to kids now. Everything's marketed to kids though. Let's be, liquor, drugs, cigarette, whatever, e-cigarettes, vaping. It's all really marketed to kids. So maybe they say it's not, but it probably already is. But at least it's not overtly being like, hey kids, and how young? Are we talking about 7-year-olds? It's going to be like infants competing for like, best dressed 9-month-old.
I mean, a lot of parents don't even let their kids get on social media until they're older.
Yeah, but I feel like kids always find a way, right?
So the head of Instagram, Adam Ostery, said in an interview with NBC's Today Show that the company still believes it's better for children under 13 to have a specific platform for age-appropriate content, and that other companies like TikTok and YouTube have app versions for that age group. Then he said in a blog post that it's better to have a version of Instagram where parents can supervise and control their experience rather than relying on the company's ability to verify if kids are old enough to use the app. So he said that Instagram for kids is meant to be for those between the ages of 10 and 12, not younger. That's a lot of work to put into an app for that narrow of an age category. Mm-hmm. And it says it will require parental permission to join, be ad-free, and will include age-appropriate content and features. Parents will be able to supervise the time their children spend on the app, oversee who can message them, and can follow them and who they follow.
But if you're a parent, do you really want to be involved in all this? I mean, aren't parents busy enough and burdened enough? Like this is going to be some other thing that they're responsible for? Women, I guess men too, but women who work, full-time jobs and who knows what, now they're going to be like chasing their kids around on Instagram too. I mean, good God. It's like cigarettes back in the day, right? When they were marketing to kids. Hook them young and then you'll have them for life. So they want to hook them young and get all their, information, whatever information they could get out of it for advertising purposes. And the brands that can get in there to advertise and stuff will hook these kids from the day they're born. And they're going to grow up needing to buy a Mercedes or whatever it is,
Well, the other issue is that people are already being held accountable for things that they did in high school. Like,
oh, right.
What's their face?
Try to run for office.
Right. Or even actresses
Right.
who was,
Or the woman who was supposed to be the head of Teen Vogue.
or the chick who was the secretary in the office, the redhead, Ellie Kempner.
Oh, right. What happened to her? I don't think I heard that.
Something that she did in high school, was a part of some club, and it was found out later that it had KKK ties in some sort of roundabout way, and became this huge scandal recently on social media. So, I mean, the other thing that's terrifying is that what if you do something when you're 10 that
Mhm.
haunts you
Right.
for the rest of your life?
Right.
So that's spooky.
Yeah, that's really spooky. I wasn't even thinking that. That's one of the worst aspects of it, if you ask me.
I don't even know what I did at 10. I don't remember who I was. I don't remember what I was doing. I don't remember anything I
A
wrote.
lot of people don't remember anything when they were 16 or 17 either.
I
So
don't remember anybody I was friends with. Like, I don't know what that would look like. But if somebody could, when she was 10 on Instagram, she posted.
she was friends with this bad person when she was, roller skating in the backyard or whatever. I mean,
roller
I
skating in
agree.
the backyard. Yeah.
It's bad.
Now that I say that out loud, that part actually scares me the most.
Yeah, me too. Now that you say it out loud, that's the
that
worst
and the
part.
pedophile stuff scares me the most.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, like I said, are parents really wanting to chase their kids around Instagram?
No.
What if you're somebody who's got 3 or 4 kids? It's crazy.
No. Okay.
Humans. The world should be run by Planet of the Apes and kitties
I disagree.
with an occasional goat.
Okay, maybe. Should we move on to horror story number 3?
Yes.
Do you want to do the honors?
I will do the dishonor. Scary story number 3. One time I was vying for a position at a pretty exclusive PR agency. To get a permanent job, I had to reach a certain set of goals over 90 days, unpaid. At which point they'd offer me a job, maybe if I was good enough.
What?
Hello, dangling carrot. I was new in town and I was in desperate need of a new gig, and I only had AC level experience. So it was tough enough just to get an interview. TLDR, I was desperate. Oh, I already said that. A few weeks into my trial period, the agency hired a new guy to be in charge of marketing for the firm as SVP of marketing. He quickly became the CEO's right hand, and you couldn't even talk to the CEO anymore without going through him. He was an abrasive, bombastic dude with a flair for making people uncomfortable with his crude jokes and demeaning attitude. But it seemed like the CEO loved him and needed his help. Oh, geez, this is just great. On top of my PR tasks for that tough hiring track I was on, I started getting assignments to help this new marketing guy out. Pretty soon, I was working full-time hours for 0 pay. I was pretty much at the beck and call of marketing guy, scrambling to get my PR work done too. I just had to hang tight and wait for my trial period to end, right? One day before my trial period and final review, marketing guy cornered me in his office for a, quote, check-in. He said he wanted to, quote, head off the PR SVP and poach me for his own department. I was stunned. I had been working all along on these goals to get hired as a PR person. I didn't want to risk my long-term job offer, so I said no thanks and mentioned it in my review the next day. My supervisor looked surprised, but brushed it off, and I did get an offer. This was a Friday. Then Monday came. Turns out they were just about to fire this marketing guy. Apparently, he had been a total fraud all along. His credentials weren't real, and all that extra work I was taking on from him was just a part of a larger issue of him passing everything off to other junior colleagues.
Oh, no.
He didn't know what he was doing and was trying to spread the work out so nobody would notice. If I had taken his offer and canceled my PR review, I would have been out the door with him. That's it. Well, it was a potentially scary story. That's one of those things you're like, oh my God, that could have been the worst decision.
Right.
Yeah,
Such
you
a
dodged
near-miss.
the bullet. Yeah, man, people are fraudulent, and it's kind of scary that people like that are so adept at what they do that they're able to like become a CEO's second, and then they turn out to be completely fraudulent.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you just, and especially if you're, a young person, like you're not going to have had much experience with people, so you might not be able to, read the room
Right.
for yourself. But this person did ish. I mean, half luck, half kind of intuition, I think.
Well, it's a good reminder to make sure that you have an offer in writing.
Yeah.
Before you say anything to your existing situation.
Yeah,
we've talked about that before, but they really dodged a bullet by the fact that they found out before it was too late, and they had.
Well, they didn't find out though.
They didn't find out? What do you mean?
They didn't find out beforehand.
I didn't follow this. What?
The person got the offer on a Friday, didn't find out that the CEO's second was a fraud until Monday.
Oh my.
So they made the right decision, half luck, half maybe deep down intuition, or partially because they also wanted to be at PR, not
not
supporting role. But they didn't know it until afterwards. So they could have said yes to Mr. CEO's second right-hand man, dude, whatever, but they luckily didn't.
The problem is with those kinds of people that are so convincing, you don't know that they're a sham until you know they're a sham. But what I will say is, the more life experience you have, if you found out that person A ultimately in the end was like X, and then you meet person B in the future, and you say, person B reminds me a lot of person A. Don't give them the benefit of the doubt. Just trust that there's a reason that your intuition made that connection, and just treat it as though it's going to end up the same way. Because I have made that mistake multiple times with clients, with hiring. If somebody like pings off of some thing in you that reminds you of another person that burned you,
believe it.
Believe it. Just believe it. Don't stick around to find out why they remind you of that thing, of that person, or that situation. Just trust it, go with it. And so next time this person meets somebody that reminds them of marketing dude, just trust that you're dealing with somebody that's got similar traits.
And you can put that into your personal life as well.
Yes.
Maybe one day. Maybe one day I'll learn it.
I've made dating mistakes in the same direction too. Shut it down. Before I even knew why, but there's no reason to stick around and find out why.
What we do to ourselves.
I know.
So I'm very happy for this person that they dodged the bullet.
Yes.
The bigger lesson here is that everybody is out for themselves. So you got to put yourself first. And this person did that. They were like, I want to be a PR person. And they stuck to their guns and it paid off. If you're true to yourself, you will stay on the right path for yourself.
Right. Should we wrap it up? I think I'm full of horror stories for one day. Thank you so much for tuning in for the PR Wind Down Halloween podcast. It's been a scream.
Please remember to like, rate, and share our podcast with the guys and ghouls in your life.
We'd love to hear from you at the email address in our show notes if you're feeling inspired to share a horror story of your own.
We can't wait to wind down with you again next time.